Good morning, cobbers, and welcome to the Zintch.com pre-market pulse for Wednesday, April 22, 2026. The ceasefire was supposed to expire today. Instead, Trump extended it indefinitely late Tuesday night, saying he's giving Iran time to come to the table with a unified proposal. Pakistan brokered the extension. The market exhaled. Futures are green across the board this morning. But the Strait of Hormuz tells a different story. Iran fired on at least 2 container ships overnight, and the waterway remains effectively closed. The ceasefire covers strikes between the US, Israel, and Iran. It doesn't cover commercial shipping. That distinction matters. The numbers at 6:40 a.m. Eastern Time. Futures are solidly green, rebounding from Tuesday's losses. Dow Futures, 49,579.00. Up 240 points, up 0.49%. S&P 500 Futures, 7,140.00. Up 40 points, up 0.56%. Nasdaq Futures, 26,833.25. Up 198.50, up 0.75%. Yesterday's close was red. The S&P 500 fell 45.13 points, down 0.63% to 7,064.01 after Vice President J.D. Vance abruptly called off his trip to Pakistan, where he was expected to lead U.S. negotiations with Iran. The Dow dropped 293 points, down 0.60% to 49,149.38. The Nasdaq fell 144 points, down 0.59% to 24,259.96. This morning's bounce is the market pricing in the ceasefire extension as a net positive. Even if the details are messy, Trump extends the ceasefire indefinitely. Late Tuesday, Trump announced the US would extend its ceasefire with Iran indefinitely, at the request of Pakistan's Prime Minister. The key details: the ceasefire covers military strikes between the US, Israel, Iran, and Lebanon. The US naval blockade of Iranian ports remains in place. Iran has not publicly confirmed it agrees to the extension. Trump said the extension gives Tehran time to present a unified proposal for permanent peace. The market's initial read: this removes the immediate risk of fighting resuming Wednesday. The blockade stays, the diplomatic channel stays open, and the clock is no longer ticking toward a hard deadline. That's enough for futures to rally. But ships are still getting shot at. Here's the complication: Iran fired on at least 2, possibly 3, commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz overnight. The attacks damaged at least 1 container vessel and underscore that the ceasefire doesn't mean the strait is safe for shipping. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed to commercial traffic. More than 20,000 seafarers are still stranded on hundreds of ships in the Gulf. The IEA has warned that a prolonged closure could lead to significantly higher energy prices and take 2 years to fully adjust global oil supply. The ceasefire extension is a diplomatic win. The Hormuz situation is still a crisis. Oil is back at $100. Oil prices surged on the ship attacks, erasing earlier gains from the ceasefire extension news. Brent crude, back above $100 per barrel, the psychological level that changes the inflation conversation. WTI crude, jumping above $93 to $94. Oil had dropped to $83 WTI, $90 Brent last Friday on peace optimism. It's now round-tripped most of that decline. As long as the strait remains closed and ships are being fired on, oil stays elevated. And elevated oil means elevated inflation risk. Yesterday's Vance cancellation rattled markets. Tuesday's sell-off was triggered by VP Vance calling off his planned trip to Pakistan. He had been expected to lead the US delegation in direct negotiations with Iranian representatives. The cancellation signaled that talks had hit a wall, and the market reacted immediately, erasing an early rally and closing down 0.6%. Trump's late-night ceasefire extension partially undid the damage, but the whiplash is real. The market is trading headline to headline on Iran. United Health crushed earnings. On the earnings front, United Health delivered a blowout quarter on Monday. Adjusted EPS of $7.23 versus $6.58 expected. Revenue of $111.7 billion. Raised its full-year 2026 outlook. Stock jumped on the results. The health insurer's beat was a signal that corporate America's earnings engine is still running strong, even with geopolitical headwinds. Nikkei hit another record. Japan's Nikkei 225 rose 0.4% to close at 59,585.86. Another all-time high. The Japanese market continues to benefit from yen weakness and strong corporate earnings. But broader Asia was mixed, with most markets trading cautiously as the Iran situation remains fluid. Treasury yields rose on Warsh hearing. Treasury yields ticked higher Tuesday after Fed Chair nominee Kevin Warsh's first confirmation hearing struck a less dovish tone than markets had anticipated. The 10-year yield moved up, suggesting the market may need to recalibrate its rate cut expectations. Fed funds futures still price in about a 65% chance of a cut before year-end, but that number could shift depending on this week's flash PMI data. Gold under pressure. Gold futures fell to around $4,761, continuing their recent decline. The stronger dollar is weighing on gold, and the market appears to be pricing inflation risk over geopolitical fear. An unusual dynamic. Normally, Hormuz escalation would lift gold. This time, the dollar is winning the safe haven trade. Today's main events. 3 big names report today. Boeing, before the bell. Analysts expect $0.86 EPS. The plane maker has been recovering from its safety crisis, and the market wants to see if the turnaround is on track. Tesla, after the bell. The marquee event of the week. Expectations are for a mixed quarter with pressure on margins. Elon Musk's split attention between Tesla, XAI, and his government advisory role is a concern. The robotaxi timeline and delivery guidance will drive the after-hours reaction. IBM, after the bell. The AI enterprise play. Investors want to see if IBM's AI consulting and software revenue is accelerating. Flash PMI data also drops today. A key read on whether the economy is holding up under the weight of $100 oil and geopolitical uncertainty. The read. The ceasefire extension is genuinely good news. It removes the hard deadline and keeps the diplomatic door open. But the Hormuz situation is not resolved. Ships are being attacked. Oil is back at $100. The blockade continues. The market is choosing to focus on the positive. The ceasefire extension, while keeping one eye on the negative. The Strait, that's a reasonable stance for now. But if Hormuz doesn't reopen soon, the oil price will do the talking. Today's focus. Boeing before the bell, flash PMI mid-morning, then Tesla after the close. It's a day where both geopolitics and earnings share the spotlight. That's your Zintch.com pre-market pulse for Wednesday, April 22, 2026. Good luck, and goodbye.